Episode 129 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast here with Cary Kolat. Hey, Cary, how's it going?
It's good, man. I'd feel better if we were competing here. Today we'd have been leaving and getting ready for the NCAA tournament. And what's today? Monday? My days are so lost.
Monday?
Yeah, actually Tuesday. We would have left tomorrow.
Yeah, everybody today was doing their final preps, last workouts, getting ready to travel plans.
Yeah.
So I guess, I think we wanted to, there's a lot of questions out there, and I don't even know if there's a lot of answers at this point, but you more than anybody, as far as the state of wrestling, Division I wrestling, the championships are probably more looped in. You've had more high level conversations with your AD, university personnel from the NCAA tournament. So I guess on Friday, we were actually getting ready to jump on the way and do the way. And you're like, hey, I got to jump, Matt. I got to go meet with my AD. So I guess, what was that conversation on Friday?
Well, that was just some things coming down the pipe. We knew that this thing was spreading. I kind of saw it weeks ago. My staff was, I'm the guy at Chicken Little, the sky's falling, I think as we get older, we get that way sometimes. And they laugh at me because they're the younger group. But I kind of saw it getting pretty serious. And I said, there's a chance. At first, I was just talking about the Olympic Games. I was sitting here saying, you know what, I think this thing's going to spread and it's going to move some things at the Olympics or who knows. And I didn't think it would come this quick and then knock out the NCAA tournament. Honestly, thought we'd get past it. But then everybody heard some things coming down the pipe. So we had some meetings and then it was just watching. The hardest part was, we kept telling our guys, hey, we would talk about it internally in the office, but you want to keep the mindset the same. Somebody brought it up in the practice. We're like, hey, knock it off. Keep yourself focused. And so we approached everything up until I knew we had started a training session at 3:30, I believe. And my assistant was over there and he gives me the sign that it's cut off. And so we just finished the workout. I said, well, let's just keep going. We'll finish the workout. So we finished the workout. And then, I think the guys had a vibe and everybody knew, and we just sat down and we talked about it. And, we just told them, it's that old saying, you don't get everything you want all the time, and you're going to have setbacks. And, and we just started right into talking about next season and your career and where it could be. And I honestly said, look, I honestly believe the NCAA is going to do something. I don't know what they're going to do, but I feel confident that they're going to do something, talking to my seniors, where it's a year of eligibility of some sort. But who knows? At this point, I don't really know. I don't know whether they're going to say, my thinking, they could come back and say, well, only seniors, get a chance to return, because everybody's talking about jam ups and scholarships. You start talking about scholarships, you're talking about finances. I think every college in the United States is tight on finances, in today's world. And, who knows what the backlog's going to be. I know we're here. We'd be okay. I'd like to see those guys get a year back. For sure. And then the question is, do they just give it to the seniors, or do they give everybody a do-over who qualified? So I don't know.
No, and I guess there's layers to that too. And I don't want to be like you said, Chicken Little, but I'm being in the situation and having a background of this. It's not about, a lot of times in situations like this, it's not about, well, this isn't right. This isn't right. Well, yeah. This is bigger than the sport. It's bigger than, a lot of things that are going on. So, what, I guess it's more of a fairness thing. People will say, well, this isn't fair, but the reality of it, the situation globally is not fair.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. And when you start jumping into things and talking about extra years of eligibility, there's larger discussions that have to take place, and there's larger implications. And hey, it's not as simple as just granting an athlete another year of eligibility.
Yeah.
To your point, I mean, you're talking about like financial aid, scholarship monies that have been passed out, awarded, years in advance. I mean, you're the way you're looking at the way you plan your next year's season is what's coming off the books. That's the seniors coming off the books, their finances coming off the books. And that would completely disrupt your 9.9. So would there be an exemption to that? That's a logical question,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Um,
And I think, I think the NCAA is getting bombarded. Look, the reality is, if you had a good team and you were primed, and we had a good team and we were primed, so we're on the side of, hey, let's do this again. And those who did not have a good team, and now their guys are getting ready to roll in, and maybe they got some good recruits, or they had some guys in redshirt. They come, they're saying, well, let's move on. So I honestly, and it's bigger than all of us right now, what's going on, and that's the truth. And but here's what I do know. I know that they've granted the spring sports another season. It won't count. So they quickly did that. And because they quickly did that, they're going to have to do something for the winter sports. And I just feel they might just leave it up to the universities to sort it out. I'm sure they're talking to ADs, but do we extend the scholarships past the 9.9 for a season, and allow everybody to reallocate after that? But then you could possibly run into Title IX implications. Then the finances of those, if you don't have the money in your program, well, you can't extend anyway, and you still might lose some guys. And now what you're going to see is, I think what we're going to see, which is going to add a whole nother level of excitement to the regular wrestling fan out there, and it's going to disappoint some coaches. But now, everybody talks about the transfer portal. That was never a big deal to me. Guys leave all the time. The transfer portal just made it easier to find who was transferring. You could see some chaos now. You could see some teams fall apart when they had this team, and all of a sudden they don't have the money, and no coach is going to, I couldn't say put the screws to his guy, especially if he's graduated. If he's a senior, you really can't do anything anyway. You could see this thing blow up, and you could see teams that were not strong get a repeat really fast.
yeah, and I think there's probably going to be. I think the NCAA will probably come out with the standardized legislative action
Yeah.
to 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 at least address this. I think if you do it institution by institution, like, I mean, there'll be so many variable interpretations about what route you want to take,
Yeah.
that I think that could actually add to the chaos and add to the confusion of what's going on. For me, and again, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. It's just things that you think about, as a former coach and being through situations. Like, for me, technically, when I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the NCAA here, and that's a scary thing, because some of the ideas they come up with and some of the things they enact is head scratching. But for me, when it pertains to the winter sports, now technically, I guess what they could say, Cary, is technically the majority of these athletes, almost all of them, completed their postseason in one way, shape, or form.
True.
A lot of the because for the majority of college athletes, their postseason ended at the conference tournament. Now we're talking about the NCAA qualifiers, but that would be interesting for me from an NCAA perspective on how they view that. I think they made the right call on the spring sports, and I think the logical progression is, well, if you did it for the spring sports, you would do it for the winter sports because their season wasn't over.
Right.
But I could see the NCAA saying, no, technically the season was over for the lion's share of the winter athletes. Their postseason was over because they did participate in a conference championship.
It's very
And I
possible.
know that's a difficult thing to say and to hear, but that's reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very possible. And I see a lot of stuff popping up. I mean, we've always had situations like this, and it just stinks for you. You talk about the 1980 Olympic team and the boycott, and it was out of their control. And this really is something that is out of everybody's control. The NCAA is not at fault. I know everybody wants to blame the NCAA. We always do. And I'm not a huge fan of the NCAA, but I work with them, and it's nobody's fault, man. This is just really bad luck on the part of the athletes, and bad luck in terms, if your program was ready to do something, and it hurts us. We've been priming, our program for years. So I always knew when I got here, it was phases to it. It was the athletes, it was getting the staff in place, and then building up the athletes. And you always, you look at our school and we said, okay, it's 4 to 5 years is when we should make that NCAA run. And I've been telling our alumni forever that, our next step is to be a top 20, top 15 team, and we were primed with our seeding and rankings going in with the 6 guys we were taking that we could have possibly done that, and it's a
Yeah,
hit.
no, I mean, yeah, and all the things you've been talking with your alumni about, your administration about, it wasn't lip service. Like, just look at the results you've had throughout this year. It
Yeah,
was pointing to a culminating event at the NCAA tournament. So that is frustrating when it's you weren't probably for one of your first years since you've been at Campbell, you weren't relying on an element of hope,
yeah,
right?
right.
You had the horses, you had the athletes, you built it up and it was ready to run, and you weren't looking for a break. You weren't looking for a good call. The guys made their breaks. They earned their
Yeah,
seeds. They earned their place in the bracket, and they were ready to roll. So that's the frustrating thing when it's not a season, Cary, in your case.
yeah,
It's seasons.
yes.
It's 5 years. It's 6 years of sacrifice and work
Yeah, a lot of work.
and to have this.
For all these
Yeah.
guys, for all these guys, and I think obviously everybody stated the obvious. I'm sure the Iowa fan base is not happy right now. They've been waiting for some time, and they took a hit too, and I mean we all it just stinks. There's no words. It's a bad situation. I woke up the other day. My wife's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine." My head's kind of spinning right now. It's spinning, and all the athletes' heads are spinning, and it just ended. All of a sudden, season's over, and you needed that ending, right? And you just needed that last tournament of the year where it all comes together, and you don't get that, and so you just feel incomplete a little bit, and now you got to get back to work, literally scheduling and start working with the guys. But here's the other thing: you can't even work with the guys right now, right? There's no contact going on. Um,
Yeah. What's actually the status of Campbell right now?
well, so we're following the governor came in and shut down our schools like every governor's doing. So we're shut down. Campbell shut down. I honestly don't think my athletes will be back. I talked to my heavyweight today, who he may be getting on a plane to Finland here, and I may never see that guy again. Getting him back for if they were to grant, say, get another year, getting him back. The guy's ready to move on with his life, and I can't blame him, and not one person on the team blames him. But we can't really have any contact with groups more than 50. So occasionally, I think there's a couple guys. The season's over. They're in there hitting the box. They're sweating a little bit and keeping distance. And they're college guys. They crack their jokes a little bit, but nothing's just literally nothing is happening. I'm working from home. Everybody at the university is working from home, and my children are working from home. They're doing schoolwork right now. I mean, so it's a little bit of it's a spin right now, man. It's just a different spin.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, just in my personal life, we homeschooled our girls for the first 7 or 8 years before, and then, the 2 older ones. So it's like
Now they're
I prep
back.
my wife. I was like, dust off the homeschool,
Yeah.
curriculum. It's gonna be back. So we're prepping for that. But back to wrestling, like I think that's to your point, it's good to have closure.
Yeah.
Right? It is good to have closure, and, the reality for a lot of us at the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of painful closures, but you wanna go through that closure, whatever the outcome
Yeah.
is, because it does end it.
Yes.
There's an end, there's a termination there, and it's like, okay, tomorrow, what we thought next Sunday, we wake up and, like, the page is turned.
Yep. It's done.
Whatever the outcome of the NCAA tournament was, like, hey, let's get back to campus, take a couple deep breaths, and let's get back to it. Now for a lot of these guys, it's almost, do you think it's the uncertainty and the unknown? Obviously, the reality is there, the season's over, but the unknowns of everything, the unknowns of schooling, the unknowns of graduation,
Yeah.
eligibility status. I'm sure for you as a college coach right now, you're like, holy crap, I hope some of these guys don't go off the reservation in the next 6 weeks, say, screw school, screw homework, and then they're eligible. Now they've dug themselves in a deeper
Right.
hole. They've lost their season, and then they become eligible or something stupid like that,
Yeah.
or going out and doing something stupid in town. I'm sure all those are logical thoughts that go through every coach's mind, right?
Yeah, the academics was one of the first things we talked about as a group, and we said, you're going to go online. What you can't do now is, some professors I wish they all would. I know guys wouldn't like it, but I would prefer it. Is they're doing live classes where and they can see you and you have to log in and show up, right? And so it keeps them on a schedule, because that's the problem with anybody. I know when I was done as an athlete, I had this daily regimen that I did all the time. When I lost my regimen, I lost myself for a little bit. I was all over the place, and so I don't want these guys to be all over the place. And it's just like we've always said, red shirts. I don't like red shirting. I'm a big proponent of we allow a guy to compete 5 seasons, but 4 post seasons, because you can keep a kid on track, keep him scheduled. He's always focused, where your starters always know they got to get on the bus, so they can't procrastinate. And so my worry now is, if it's these online lectures that are recorded, well, guys now are going to say, I have lots of time. No, you don't have lots of time. You got to keep yourself scheduled, ready to get up in the morning. And that's what we told them. You have to treat it just like you're physically going to class still. And I know as a parent here at home right now, my wife and I were just talking, because it's, for us, our lives are a little turned upside down. Our kids would always go off to school. Now, one's sitting at the kitchen table, one's in the bedroom doing their homework. Like, we got to get them scheduled, just like we do. I'm telling the guys to get scheduled, so we get everything accomplished that we need to get accomplished academically. Because what I can't have is me sitting here and not having it into the season, and then finding out, oh, one of your starters really sank this class, and there's a possibility of being eligible. And I don't have that problem with my guys, but it could happen, and then training. The other thing right now, who knows? I don't know if gyms are closing down. I don't even know how much they can lift when, a lot of guys are home. And not that we're training for something right now, obviously, because everything's getting postponed, but you got to keep your mind in it. You have to stay in it. And the wrestling's year round, and, trying to win an NCAA title is year round. So you have to stay in it year round. And this is just hopefully just a couple months setback for everybody.
Yeah. And I think what they're doing, and I'm sure the end isn't quite in sight. I'm sure there's going to be some more fallout, some more decisions that are being made. But yeah, back to the structure of the athletes. We've talked about it a lot on the way. One of the biggest things, we've always, my feeling is, being a college athlete is a benefit, because it structures your day so completely.
Yes.
And you've got a purpose for every segment of your day, from getting up and lifting, going to class, getting your technique in, coming to practice, getting your study hall hours, and all these infused structures,
Everything,
which a lot of our athletes need. They need that. These, for a lot of our athletes, they're coming in with some deficiencies. So I think the structure and, the support system created within the athletic department is necessary for a lot of these kids to be successful in the classroom. And so, what resources do they have available for them? I know that there's tons of resources on a daily basis for these college athletes, these student athletes, but now that, school's been suspended, canceled, or classes, like, what support systems do the athletes still have right now?
Well, there's the mental health side, and all that stuff is still there. They have places they can reach out to if anybody runs in any situation like that, just because their life's upside down. Tutoring situations, I'm not sure right now with us, because I think this is new for everybody. So everybody's trying to figure out as we go along here. But obviously that's going to have to be some kind of online setup now. Whether it's through Skype or FaceTime, however they plan on doing that. They're not going to have access to academic counseling like they had, in terms of if they have a schedule. That's all going to be done through the phone. All this stuff's going to become very impersonal, right? I'm not a fan of online learning. I know a lot of things are going that way. For me, it would have never worked. It would have never worked whatsoever. I need face-to-face time. I need hands-on kind of stuff. So I can't speak to, I think every resource will be in place, but there might be a learning curve to the universities putting it in place to make it happen for them. Is really what it's all going to come down to.
Yeah. So again, I mean, this is a fluid situation for everybody. I mean, this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
I can't, I don't even like to bring this up, because it's nowhere near a similar situation, but the last event that impacted our country in these ways were 9/11.
Yeah.
And different circumstances. And again, I don't want to compare the two. But when we're talking about, a national crisis, this is probably the only referencing point that we can have at this point, right? And so,
There'll be a second one though.
yeah,
There's really, so 9/11 was significant, right? We all know that. Um, and so that plays a big part. And I didn't know this, and you probably, so when the housing market went down, and I'm finding this out, that when the housing market bubble popped in 06 or 07, a lot of people said, you know what, I'm not ready to have kids. I'm not sure about the world right now. I'm not sure about the economy. And so people had less kids. So you have a smaller group of seniors in 2025 that'll be graduating because of that. So now, my concern is, you have how many moms and dads who are living paycheck to paycheck, and in return also helping their kid go to school. And now there's going to be a hit, and so financially, I think, I besides the pandemic and getting through this thing here, this virus, and then getting through the hurdle of what are we going to do with all the last group, there's going to be a financial problem for a lot of people, and you just got to wait and see. You just got to wait and
yeah, and
see how it works.
I mean, we've seen, from the Federal Reserve, the interest rates being reduced. It'll be interesting. And again, this is the fluidity of the conversation that we don't know about.
Yeah.
But you would think federal financial aid hopefully would be expanded. If there is,
It'll help. I know they're putting some bills through, but like I said, a lot of moms and dads are helping, and we're a 9.9 sport, and we bust it up. Like we help as many guys as we can help. And so that's my worry for wrestling in general. Like this could hit some people, and just make it hard, and make it hard for anybody who does get another year to be there. Just plain and simple, just be hard to be there. And so,
yeah, because I mean, okay, the goal is always there, being a national champion, All-American, national qualifier, all those things. But, I think one thing that we've touched upon, I think in the past, is like the endurance it takes to compete for 5
yeah,
years in college. Just to make it through 5 years is something. And, in my personal experience, I think we've talked about this in the past, I haven't seen a lot of those 6-year scenarios play out favorably for
no,
the athlete, just because I think it's so physically and mentally demanding.
yeah,
And for so many of these guys that have sacrificed for 5 years, like how many of these athletes really have it in them? Or to your point, number one, they can financially afford it,
yeah.
you know? I
Financially,
mean,
yeah, financially affording 6 year.
the full ride kid, maybe he's probably still gonna have to think about some things, but it's probably less cumbersome than the partial scholarship kid that's still gotta come up with a significant financial amount to come back and
Yeah.
compete.
Well, Matt, I got some of what I wanted. You know what I mean? I got 2 NCAA titles. I wanted more, but I'll tell you, when the last time they raised my hand at the NCAA finals, I was ready to move on. I was ready to be
Yeah.
done with college and move on to the next phase of my life. And when I was done internationally, I was ready to move on to the next phase of my life. And there's a lot of kids who would be, I'm ready to move on to the next phase of my life. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. For me, here's how I've always felt about, our staff and our coaching and people. One, everybody talked about the transfer portal when it first came out. And my thing was, if somebody doesn't want us, we don't want them. That's how I look at it. And if you're doing the right things and your kids are happy and they're on a winning team, they're going to stay. They're going to stay. And if somebody wants to leave, then leave. You don't want us, we don't want you. And I kind of feel the same way in this situation right now. I'm not going to, if they get it back, I'm not going to beat my guys over the head and say, you got to do it. I'm not going to guilt them if they want it. I want them to come back through the door because they want to come back and wrestle and they want to get it done. Then I know we got the right guys, and if some guy, I'm not going to hold it against a guy that says, Coach, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, Cary, I would almost, if I had that guy right away saying, "Hey, coach, I wanna come back," I would probably say, "Hey, great, fantastic, but you know what? Let's pump the brakes a little
Yeah,
bit. Let's get through this year." I think you really have to take your time to understand what you're investing in, again, because obviously in the moment when emotions involved, every kid's going to say, "Yeah, I want to come back,
yeah,
coach. I want to come back. I got something taken from me. I still got more to give." But then the reality, the more you separate yourself, the more distance we create from this event and from this week. I think is we're going to have more informed perspective,
Yeah.
and the athletes are going to have more informed perspective. And I think maybe, if anything, maybe this separation, although difficult right now, might be the best thing for these kids to get away and have some
Yeah.
self-reflection. Have some more intimate conversation with mom and dad or the people that are close to you, away and back with your family, back with your parents, where you can really have an in-depth discussion about this is okay. It is about competing, but it is also about
Yeah.
graduating. It's about getting a job. Let's remind ourselves of all these things, that the outcomes of what you entered into this for was more than just an NCAA title,
Yeah.
more than just the wrestling experience. And I know people don't want to really hear about that and talk about that or put their efforts into that right now, but that's part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Part of those things that you got to factor in.
Well, every guy that was a senior on my team said he would be back, except my heavyweight, and that was within 10 minutes of finding out the NCAA tournament was over, right? And it's emotional, and it's kind of like me after the Olympics when things didn't go my way, I was ready to go another 4, and then you get home in a couple of weeks, I'm like, I need to walk away and step away from it, and I think, like I said, I think every coach in the country is going to have some situations like that. There's going to be some guys who return if they allow it, and there's going to be some guys that say, I'm ready to move on. For me, the only one was my heavyweight. The guy came all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, has been living here for 5 years, and that guy's ready to be home with his family. And it was devastating to him. I mean, he was tore up because he's been here from what we like to say the dark years, when things weren't going as well, the dark ages, and we were just getting this thing going. And so he's seen it grow and build, and he's very proud of it. And yeah, so there's gonna be some motion. Same as recruiting. Every recruit that leaves your campus, for the most part, they love your school, and then they go to the next one and they love that school, and it's just over and over again, right? And that's why everybody tries to be the last visit, or nobody ever really wants to be the first visit, and but that is your emotions. You don't want to make decisions on emotions, like they say, and you can't. And we're just now sitting back, and then right now it's just getting through all of this, and he's just figuring out where. Hell, when do we get to start again? When do we get to go put hands on people? When do we get Akron? Everybody's getting ready for freestyle. All my guys red shirt, not in the lineup. They were getting ready for Akron, and they were getting ready to start freestyle. Done. It's all done. We just don't know where anything stands. And I don't think we're going to know where anything stands, Matt, for at least 8 weeks. They're saying 8 weeks of this stuff, and in 8 weeks we're going to know. We're going to know where we stand, and then it's what's going on, and hopefully they get this thing figured out and get a cure, or whatever it takes to beat it.
Yeah, I guess as far as it pertains to wrestling, I guess the one other thing that I was thinking about that we hadn't talked about is, and I'm trying to think of more cases than Kolat, but Kolat's the one guy that I can think about that was in Olympic red shirt, removed himself from his Olympic red
Yeah.
shirt. I'm like, oh man, holy cow!
Yep.
And he was doing it for his team.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I'm sure Matthew wanted to come back and wrestle, but I know a big part of that was the team Princeton had and the opportunity that they thought they had in front of them if he did come out. And I think it was probably the right decision at the time.
Well, I
But
got to say,
that
we all have different levels of guys, and that you have to have team players and guys who are unselfish to build a winning program. And so for him to do that, I'm sure it was a combination of things. Maybe there's some other things. And that's the guy we want. Like, we want that guy. I had a guy, our 97 pounder, he was a senior. It was going to be his spot, and he blew his knee out. And so we were contemplating pulling a true freshman out of redshirt. And my 84 pounder who was a national qualifier last year, just came to my office and said, "What are you going to do about 97?" I said, "Don't know what we're going to do." He goes, "Well, if you need me, I'm ready." And pulled himself out of red shirt. And then, there it is. The season does. I mean, and you need guys like that. And those are the guys we love. And that kills me to see. Look, that guy's not even my team. Hearing that story, it's devastating. I have my 33. Eastern Michigan dropped their program. We just like a lot of guys, we love this kid. He's ranked 8th or 9th going into the NCAA tournament, and had lost his program, and now lost his last chance at an NCAA title, and it's just done. And so
And he was trying to, I mean, for a guy like Gonzer, I mean, he was doing it for Campbell, but he was also doing it in a way from Eastern Michigan, I'm sure. And for the guys that lost that program, and there's still a handful of those guys that are still competing. And talk about adding insult to injury, right?
they had a really good that coach had put a good team together before they dropped the program, and yeah, and Gonzer, that was a big part of the driving force for Gonzer, man. Like he's a loyal guy. That's one of the things on his senior night that I did a little talk for each guy. He's loyal, but all my guys are loyal. But that guy is extremely loyal to his Eastern Michigan teammates and his staff that recruited him there. He wanted to be there. It was fortunate for us and terrible for EMU. They lost their program, but fortunate for us that we grabbed them. We all had to grab somebody, and we got a really good one. We got a really good one, and he brought a lot of motivation to our team. And I mean, it's just hard. It's like to see him take a hit like that. And then the one kid at 84, we have Morgan. He was ranked up there. He transferred from Cal Poly, and Cal Poly wouldn't release him. So not only did he redshirted at Cal Poly, he got here and they forced him to sit. So he only had 3 years of eligibility, and so this was his last shot. And we were going to fight for another year for him after this. And so there's a lot of heartache for a lot of guys and a lot of coaches out there, and I know the coaches feel for their guys, and you're just taking hits all over until we get through it.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think, speculate, moving ahead. I guess, yeah, yeah. I
No
mean,
idea.
it's you started talking about freestyle a little bit, but I don't think any freestyle decisions are going to be made until they make a decision on the Olympic trials, number one, and then you could probably see some things fall. But the prospect of when or if the Olympic trials would take place, even if the Olympics take place. I mean, I think that's all, you know,
Yeah, I think this is all still up in the air. Everything I've been reading, I'm no health management expert, but the one thing it says is this thing comes in 2 waves. So you get through the first wave, people get relaxed. It's not all wiped out. We go on about our day, and then the second wave, and if we are in a pandemic, I know a lot of people out there saying, it's fear, but I agree. There's this thing will hit the elderly a little harder than it's going to hit younger people, but it's hitting everybody. There could be a second wave to it. So if there's a second wave, I don't know
and
what
you
will
know
have
what?
going
I
on
mean,
this
we're
summer.
all being impacted on in one way, shape, or form, and I think we're all going to be directly or indirectly affected by this specific virus at some point this week. You know,
Yeah.
but that being said, you know, I think the best thing I heard yesterday was if the worst thing that comes out of this situation is we overreacted, that's a pretty positive thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody posted something that a superintendent said, and he goes, I'd get criticized if I didn't send the kids home. And we might get criticized for overreacting, but I'd rather be on that
than the
side
other
of it.
alternative. We know what the other
And
alternative
that's,
could be, and none of us
yeah,
wants that
yeah, no, no. And that's where we should be. That's where we should be.
unless you have more to add or more thoughts. But I think, you know, in this situation where we're all being affected in different ways, um, just just be smart, right? I mean, there's simple policies, simple
Yeah.
procedures, simple health and safety things that you can do. Do your part. Do that, right? I mean, I'm far from a health and safety official, but use common sense. Use common sense. God did bless everybody with that.
Yeah.
So do your part uh, to make smart decisions, and that's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anybody should underestimate it. I think you're better off, like as I would say, don't break your stance. Stay in your stance the whole time until we're through this thing. And all those little things, all the little details, if it's just washing your hands, whatever it is, just be smart, man. You got to be smart from here on out until we see where this
Yeah, and
thing's
you know
going.
what? And the other thing I was thinking about last night, and we're wrestlers, right? We train we
Yeah.
train for all the right reason. We don't train, and some guys do, but the majority of us are in it. Nothing's promised, right? Nothing's promised, nothing's
Right.
given. And, that's why we get in the room every single day, to get better, to learn more about ourselves.
Right.
The achievement really, it, you know, I know that tangible piece of hardware and that tangible experience of stepping on the mat and stepping on the podium does something to you, and you take that with you. But everything these guys have gone through, the lessons they've learned, it's not a fail for them being in this sport and walking away and being denied this opportunity. And I'm not trying to be overly, emotional here, but we all got in this sport. We've all had, you more than most have had extreme highs and extreme lows. But I don't think you would trade the experience of the sport. And I think at the end of the day, as bad as this is, none of these athletes would trade the experience of this sport for being denied this opportunity. So
no, not at all. Not at all. It's like I said, bad way to end, but we had fun our season. I mean, we were rocking and rolling, and we were improving, and that's every time we stepped on the mat, I felt like we improved. So, that's what we'll end it with. And it's just what we got to live with right now until we know what's going on. But it's more of it's not really an uplifting conversation.
No, I
this
mean,
week,
I've tried to
So,
in ways pull out silver linings, but it's hard to find a silver lining. I'm sure we will at a certain time. With time, you gain perspective. With perspective, you gain better insight and context to the experience. So there will be at a certain point a silver lining. We just don't know what it is yet. It is unfortunate for all the athletes, parents, coaches, administrators, institutions, everybody involved. Nobody wanted this, and so but we'll keep getting better. That's what we do, right?
Absolutely. All right, Matt. Well, good talking to you, man.
All right, brother. I will catch up with you soon.